Southern California's largest paint and sip studio. Spotlight with Purple Easel.
Welcome to Purple Easel Spotlight, where we put the spotlight on artists and creatives. My name's Latoya.
And I'm Meagan.
And today we're going to be spotlighting an artist, we're going to be interviewing an artist, and we're going to be talking about all things art. But before we get started on all of our episode 2, mind you.
Number 2.
We have some breaking art news.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. A painting at London's National Gallery is receiving backlash over its new frame.
Oh, change.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for, pieces to have new frames every once in a while. But people were not having this newer frame, so they took it to the internet.
Oh, boy.
And the internet does not like
Interneted?
it. Yes, it's interneted. So the one on the left is an old 19th century Gothic frame, and the new frame on the right is a 15th century frame with gilded molding.
So it's actually older?
So that's what I thought. And I was like, okay, well, why are y'all complaining?
Totally different style, but yeah, okay.
Right. So here's the tea. Peter Shade, head of the National Gallery Framing Department, took to X, formerly known as Twitter, and was like, the figures appear larger and the details crisper without the competition of the incongruous carvings.
Yeah.
So that's what he had to say about it. And so there's talk, and then we're going to talk about the frames.
Yeah.
Which ones do you like?
Okay, so I think I'm inclined to agree with him. I think the simple lines of the gilded frame allow the picture to show through more. The tone of the wood is nice for the original frame, but it makes it feel kind of like an altarpiece or something to me. Especially how it has extra on the top versus the bottom.
Yeah.
And look at the shadow it creates, like on the top part versus the spot of light at the bottom. Like
Yeah.
you're getting a much more even picture with the newer frame.
This space is not off in a bad way. This space has changed somehow, but it hasn't changed. It appears
Yes.
as if the space has changed on the top and the bottom.
Yeah. It definitely looks darker in the original frame. And I think part of that is that shadow that's created by that lip.
Yep.
I also think that the gold gilding makes that chandelier look more gold.
Because there's something to relate to.
Yeah. It kind of ties in a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so by the way, this is the Arnolfini Portrait by Jan van Eyck. Is that how?
Eyck, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I said that right.
But it's true. And I think especially when our guests do the diptychs, which is 2 paintings that you do together, normally it's couples or friends or whatever, they look so good in the floater frames. They look so good. And it really just finishes it off.
You know, it's so true. Like you were saying, you wouldn't think that the frames would do much until you put the canvas in the frame and it just increases.
Yeah, it makes it seem more valuable.
Yeah.
It gives it more oomph, more presence. And I think if there's something you should be proud of, then give it that little honor of framing it.
But as far as the frames go here, it's hard to say which I like better. I low-key like the old frame, even though it does cast that shadow. I do like the little hint of gold that it has, but then all the brown wood. But then the strangest thing, even though the one on the right is... Wait, by the way, I just wanted to say for the record, they made a big deal about this on the artnews.com, but they didn't have a picture of the newer frame. And then I went on Google. Exactly. And then I went to images.
How you gonna have news without having the news?
Exactly. And I had to go to Reddit, actually, because Reddit made a forum about this. So I'm just...
Good old Reddit. Thank you, Reddit.
Trustworthy Reddit, to get this second picture. But yeah, the newer, older one actually kind of looks newer to me.
It does. It totally does.
Yeah.
Like, you could probably get something like that at Home Goods right now.
Yeah. Or like Hobby Lobby.
And maybe that's why people don't like it. Maybe because it looks more universal and more timeless in a sense.
You know what? Yeah. Because it does look newer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, there's our art news today.
That was exciting news.
Yes. Well, we're going to jump right into our artist that we're just about to interview right now. His name is Christian Nacorda. That is Nacorda. And you can find his Instagram at Christian Nacorda. And we're about to get into interview mode, so we're going to put our headphones on and do a nice little interview. All right, today we're going to be interviewing Christian Nacorda. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you guys doing?
Oh, fantastic. This is very exciting.
Yes,
this is
first.
a first for us. So thanks for being the guinea pig.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure. It is an honor to be the first.
Oh, wow, yeah. So Christian teaches at CGMA, CSUN, ACCD, and Brainstorm. That's a lot of letters. What do they mean?
No kidding.
That is. I've been teaching for a long time. It's going to be, next year is going to be my 20th anniversary of teaching, which is crazy.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've been teaching for a very long time, all here in Southern California, online too. I currently teach at Art Center, which is, a local school here in Pasadena, the Art Center Center of Design. I teach at Brainstorm School, which is an online school. If you're anywhere in the world, you can take classes with us. CGMA is the same thing. We're online as well as the CG Master Academy. All of these are like entertainment design focused stuff. So I teach classes for anybody who's trying to get into like character design, any kind of previous stuff for video games, movies, television. That's primarily what I'm teaching. So I primarily teach figure drawing. And anatomy and portraiture. So I specialize in drawing people and painting people, capturing that. That's the thing I love. I'm obsessed with it. I'm really nerdy about it. And it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right on.
Yeah.
So
My life.
my other question now that you said that you've been working for 20 years or soon to be 20 years is there a difference between like the kids 20 years ago versus the kids today? As far as like what's the difference?
There are quite a few differences. So when I first started teaching, I was 22. Like I literally had a week between graduation and starting school. So I never like really had this divide between me and the students. I've always put myself in the place of the students.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I always felt like I was on the same side of the table. It was never me versus them. So also, because I was so young, I was the same age as everybody when I first started teaching. It's not younger than a lot of my students. So, I would put music on. Like, I would like a lecture and then like, okay, let's draw. And then I'll put music on and people would be like, oh, they're like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I like the song. Now when I put music on, people are like, they like put their headphones on. I mean, I still get people that are like, I try to keep up with it. But like on top of it, I think like the difference is now when you see the talent that's coming out of like kids that are just out of high school compared to like what you know what I mean? Like, because I was born in 82. We were just talking about this before we started recording. I graduated high school in 2000. Like, that doesn't sound like a long time ago, but in 2000, I was typing like this. You know what I mean? Like when I went to interview at my school and they were like, we're going to put you in for computer animation. The idea that computer was in my major, I was like terrified. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like, it wasn't a normal thing for us. Like we didn't grow up with the technology. Like we were very much a transitional generation. So that was kind of a scary thing. But like, aside from that, like now, my TA who I just had at Art Center, her name is Shan. Shout out Shan, if you ever hear this. Cosmo, both of these guys, an incredible artist, 18 years old. With like, I'm 41 now. I wish I could be as talented as they are right now. Like their skill level, their ability is ridiculous. But like, I think it's also like the resources that they had. You know what I mean? I wish I had Photoshop when I was in high school. I wish I had like, you know what I mean? I had to discover all this stuff. I didn't even have the internet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody has so much accessibility, so much ability to learn. Like, and I've always had the theory that like children have the ability to take in like college level education when it comes to art. And it shows. We're seeing that right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
I
So,
1000% agree with that. Because when I look at the kids' art now, again, I couldn't do those things at that age.
Yeah.
At all, period. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
what?
Like,
Yeah, well, it's so easy to learn things now because you can just micro bits on TikTok or whatever and find the exact thing that you're trying to, you know, conquer and hone in on the specific things. You don't have to wade through as much noise. And I feel like for us, we just had to try a bunch of stuff. There was not the direction and the ability to drill down like there is now.
I had I just finished a semester or a term over at Brainstorm, and I'm not gonna put him on blast, but one of my students was a very big. He was a supervisor, like a lead artist supervisor at one of the big studios. Um, and he like fully just told me on the first day. He was like, "Just full disclosure, you need to know." And I was like, "I wish you didn't tell me that because that's crazy to know." But like he was super awesome. But he's older also, and he's been doing this for a long time. And he was saying back in the day, there just wasn't a route for this. You couldn't just like, oh, I'm going to take animation classes. There wasn't school for that. There wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, the best you would do is like, well, I want to be an animator, but I guess I'll take graphic design classes. You know what I mean? Because that's all that they offered. But like, yeah, exactly. Now there are so many resources online that are very specific, like these tiny bubbles of exactly what you want to find. And like, all on top of it, the accessibility of like the teachers. Like, you have these great artists that people like really, really admire that have the ability to put their stuff up on Gumroad or put their stuff up on just YouTube for free, you know? And if you know where to look and if you know how to find it, like that's my other issue is like, I think there's still an issue, and I don't want to get like deep into this. Maybe we can, when it comes to like education, that like there's still a divide between who has access to like these things. Like when I got to Art Center, I didn't even apply for Art Center when I was in high school because I didn't think I could get in. I knew that it was like a really low acceptance rate. So when I started teaching there and I was learning from the students how they got into there, it was like, I didn't know about all this stuff. Like they were in all of these like after school programs, like these art center programs. I'm like, how come I didn't know about this stuff? And like my whole thing now as an educator is to like make that a more fair playing field for everybody. Because it's not fair for those kids that didn't know about that stuff growing up because their parents couldn't afford to know about it. Or you know what I mean? They just weren't in the right circles, but they're super talented and they have to struggle like way harder than these other kids. So I don't know. I think moving forward, like that's something I would like to like offer, and specifically for the IE. So I don't know if you're watching this and you're in Inland Empire, like that's kind of been my like goal moving forward is giving back to our community, like specifically Inland Empire, like through LA, through Orange County, IE, all the way down Riverside, High Desert, all of us, like you know, to have resources again for artists.
All right. Well, I have another art-related question for you. Which do you prefer more, or if you have one, digital or traditional?
Oof, it goes back and forth. I obviously like got my start traditionally. I love traditional work. I would say for the last like 10 years, I've been primarily digital. I still do a lot of stuff traditional. It's like now I'm getting back into my sketchbook after being like really, really digital for the last 5 years. I love it all. I think I don't want to be like this gatekeeper of art where like you have to learn traditional before you get into the digital because there's like that's just not the case anymore. You know, there was a time where I would have said that. Like if you really want to understand how to paint digitally, you should understand painting traditionally. But the reality is there's just a bunch of kids who never touched the paintbrush and paint incredibly digitally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, for me, digital is just another tool, right? Whether it's Photoshop or Procreate or whatever, right? Clip Studio Paint is just another tool. There's, while we're getting into this, there's like, what I don't like is when people like, I'm a digital artist, and then you dig a little, like barely a little bit, and you find out that that's AI. And I'm like, there's a difference between painting in Photoshop and entering a prompt into Midjourney. You know what I mean? Like it still takes skill to paint in Photoshop. It doesn't take skill to enter in a prompt into an AI. So
I've seen people
controversial, maybe.
Yeah, no, very. I've seen people defend like, well, I put like really, really smart. Like you have to be really, really specific and smart in how you type it, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no,
you're still not creating it though.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
it's
didn't
your
make it.
idea. If you do that and then use that as a reference,
Yeah, sure.
then I feel like as long as you're manipulating it on some level, then you can still put your stamp on it. But yeah, I agree that digital, you don't really need the other stuff so much anymore. It's a art form all of its own. Like it lives by itself now, and I think that doesn't make you any less an artist. It's like using clay, you're an artist. Using charcoal, you're an artist. It's just another medium.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So if you guys, by the way, Christian Nacorda, one word, no space, you can check my Instagram out. I primarily do a lot of figure drawing, like a lot of figure drawing. It's what I do for work. So if you don't know what that is, you've seen it in movies. It's like where there's a class and there's like a nude model, and they're drawing the nude model. That's what I do. Yes, I've seen more naked people than a single human being should see in a lifetime. Just like last week, it's a lot. But I do it a lot. Also, the thing is, I do it outside of work, so I have to do this for work for school, but I also like make time to like. So there's a couple like small communities that I'm part of, like in LA, and there's a lot of like artists that do this. There's a lot of it. I would say like 95% of the people that are out there doing this are doing this traditionally. They're drawing charcoal, they're painting, they're on pastels. You know what I mean? A sketchbook. So I'm out there with my iPad, and I know how that looks. I know how that looks, and like I know how like the opinions that I get from people, and like there are some artists that like are 100% they get it, and they're like, dude, that's awesome, And then there's people that come up and they're curious and ask questions, and then there are obviously going to be people that are like, that's not real. You're not a real artist. Because it's, you know what I mean? Like, if you should be doing that on paper, or like, that's not real art. Like, because they don't understand digital art. Like, they think like I'm pressing a button. Like, it's the equivalent of like Midjourney, or like the equivalent of AI that I'm entering in a prompt and the computer's doing all the work.
Yeah.
When in reality, this is just another tool.
Yeah.
Like, if you knew what Procreate was, you would want to use this too. Because I get to use all the colors. I get to use whatever brush I want, and it's not a mess. I don't have to like clear my paintbrushes. I also don't have to keep buying paint. I don't have to keep buying canvas. I don't have to keep buying boards. You know what I mean? Like, there's such a huge advantage. Now, there's also advantages to digital or traditional. There's stuff that you can do traditionally that takes just like, you can't just naturally do digitally, and splashes, things like that. You know what I mean? So there's a balance to all of it. And I think there's validity in all of it outside of the AI.
I get customers here at Purple Easel, and I'll be painting, and then they'll be like, "Oh, well, I draw at home. Like, I'm so much better at drawing." And I'm like, "I believe you. Like,
it's a different skill.
And painting is a complete. If you're going from like just drawing with a pencil to painting, that is a completely different ball game.
Yeah, And people can paint but not be able to draw whatsoever. Yeah, it's just totally different.
I do. If you are like on that journey of like becoming an artist, and you want to be kind of like that really well-rounded Renaissance artist, I would recommend. You know what I mean? Like, we just talked about that, and I was like, you don't have to do the traditional route, but if you want to, draw, paint, sculpt, all three, right? Like, you can still do all that stuff digitally. You can still draw digitally, paint digitally, and sculpt digitally. Pick up ZBrush, right? Pick up, I don't know, whatever. But like, all of those things are going to inform the other things. So if all you do is draw, you're fine, right? You can still do that. If all you do is paint, you're fine. If all you do is sculpt, it's fine. But if you draw and you paint, like, drawing, I think, helps you understand like just the basics, and also like understand line, like you understand line. Sculpting will help you understand form and shape, right? Painting will help you understand value and color. So like, if I paint, that's going to help with my drawing skills.
Yeah.
Right. If I sculpt, that's going to help my painting. Like, it all helps each other. Right. So even if I don't intend to be a great sculptor, or I don't intend to be a great painter, doing all those other things are going to make me a badass like illustrator.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So it's just, again, that big understanding. Now, okay, I didn't intend for this to get to this, but I kind of wanted to bring this up.
But we're here.
I got in this huge online argument a couple of years ago with the whole AI thing, with a complete stranger. And the question was over like the function of art. So like, the first thing was like some rando it was the big AI with the circle, Ghostbusters thing on it. And some rando like messaged me, and he was like, you're just scared because you're being left in the dust and you're obsolete or whatever. And like, And then I responded and I'm like, oh, that's whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's not exactly the issue that I'm talking about, but whatever. And then he was like, like, I forget what he said exactly. And it's hard for me. I don't want to go back and dig it up, but basically he was saying like, you're not innovating, right? Art is about innovation and you're not innovating. And I was like, what? Like, or it's about like making I think he was confusing art with technology. You know what I mean? Because I don't look at art as being like it's all about innovation. Like every work of art has to be an innovation. I don't even think art that's the function of art, right? To me, art is expression, right? To me, art is like a language. So it's like I just want to learn how to speak it as beautifully as I can, right? And I dedicated my life to that, right? I think that's all it is. I'm not trying to. What am I gonna like? The body is the body. What am I going to reinvent? Like, that's what I think is so beautiful about it. I feel like I'm in touch with the masters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, these are the same studies that Da Vinci and Michelangelo were doing, right? That Bernini was doing is what we're doing. Like, what new thing are you bringing to the body? What new discovery? It's like, oh, new breaking technology in Kung Fu. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a craft. It's a craft and it's a form of expression to me. And it's a way for me to like communicate.
Yeah.
Right. It's a way for all of us to communicate. And I think that's the importance of art. And this is why art should be protected. And like, it's crazy that we're creating AI to make art when we should, it's taking away the one thing that makes us human from us. When we should be using it to like, I don't know, take the trash out.
Yeah,
or like,
no, I think that's the craziest thing. It's like AI.
Where is Rosie from the Jetsons? That's what we need, all right?
Exactly. Like, why is it in the art world? It should be, like, where's the flying cars or like.
The thing with AI and artists is, and you can argue all the ways that AI can help us, but ultimately AI can only take what already exists. And if you're talking about innovation, you need the human touch in order to create something that is non-existent already. And not every single thing is going to be, some giant new, whatever, but it'll never happen if it's all just something plugged into a computer or taking from what already exists. So, I mean, saying an artist is going to become obsolete is pretty silly to me.
The scary thing is there's there's already like a normalization of the AI. Like there's an AI button in Instagram, right? You can press a button and you can like enter a prompt and then it can create an image for you. You know what I mean? There's already like reports like there's a recently like DC Comics is under fire because I think they used AI art in a Batman comic. There was that horror movie that dropped, like which was supposed to be really good, but they used AI art in it again. And it's like already there's a normalization of it. These are easy jobs for people that just it's so easy for corporate to just be like, dude, I know we could hire a person, but I literally could just press this button and we're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why wouldn't they? I get it. You know what I mean? So that's really, really scary. That again, we're using this instead of like using this technology to free us up to allow us to be more artistic and express ourselves more. We're using it it's taking that away and it's doing it for us. I don't know. It just doesn't, it's so backwards. It's so backwards to me. So
Agreed.
Yeah. Very, very, very true. Very good discussion. I love
anyway, sorry, I didn't mean
Oh, no, that was a great tangent. It's something that we've kind of skirted around in multiple episodes. So this is our first like real deep dive. So it was nice to have that third opinion there too.
I wish we could talk about it more. I was like looking at the time. I'm like, oh, I want to keep talking about this. But I know you guys.
Happy to come back and we can do like a full expansion.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah. I don't want to keep you much longer. And I had look at my questions. I asked you 3 questions. But yeah, I know you got things to teach you, have things to do, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. But thank you so much, Christian, for being our first interviewee.
Hey, thank you guys. Also, just shout out to Purple Easel. Shout out to you guys. What you guys are doing is amazing. I think it's really important to have. I kind of brought this up a second ago. I think it's really important to have like any kind of brick and mortar place for artists to go within the community, and like within the Inland Empire, there's not much. You know what I mean? I know there's pops of things in Riverside, there's stuff in Pomona, but it's few and far between, and you got to drive really far. LA has a bunch of stuff. Orange County has a bunch of stuff. So it's great that you guys are doing this. You know what I mean? I think if we can just like build that community and that network of like Inland Empire resources for artists, and make that really, really visible for everybody to see, you know, and invite people, you know, to whatever like level of skill you have. Don't be intimidated by, you know, by the other people. Like, come in, you're welcome, always.
Yes.
Always, always.
Yes.
Yes. I love that sentiment.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
So that was an awesome interview.
It sure was.
I was so excited to meet Christian. I've heard so much about him, especially, you know, the lore of David Bowie chalkboard art and all the rest. So we didn't get an opportunity to talk much about his work today, but we'll do that even without him.
Yes.
Let's get into it.
All right. So a lot of these images I pulled up from his Instagram account, and you can see all of his wonderful, beautiful digital work and traditional, but he has a lot of his digital work on there. And scrolling through and just looking at it, like, he's just so good with faces.
I know.
Faces. I am so poor. Like, I can't. I'm so poor. Poorly. I can't paint or draw faces at all. So I feel like it's a whole nother level of skill when it comes to like the skeletal and the muscles and the fat, like where it's placed and all that kind of cool stuff.
Having all that understanding of anatomy. I mean, it's no wonder he practices so much though, because there's so many little nuances. And for me, I feel like I want to do more portraits so I can get better at it. It's getting the likeness though. Like, it'll be a person and it'll look fine, but it might not look like the person I'm trying to draw.
Yeah.
And you can see all this like celebrity ones that he has are just like spot on.
Yes. So when he used to work here back in the days, and my fiance used to work here back in the days, and they used to draw on the chalkboard, and they would do faces and stuff like that. And Ian and Christian are both very good at those things. But we would always talk, and Ian knows this. We would talk about that Christian's was better at the likeness. Ian's really, really great. No disrespect. Ian's amazing. He is great. But it's because also he did a chalkboard of it was like a leprechaun or something, and it ended up just looking like him. So he like teased him for a long time. It wasn't supposed to be him, but it looked like him. But Christian is really spot on when it comes to the likeness. Like you're saying, it'll look like a person, but is it like
That person.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Oh, right on.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I mean, look, it looks like it's straight out of the movie.
A lot of his work looks like it's a snapshot of just like there was no work done. It's just
It's just that. It just exists already. Oh man, that's beautiful. But I love that you can still see a lot of the texture and stuff in it too.
And if you go to his Instagram, you can see a lot of the the time lapse videos too.
The process. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, look at
And that's one of my
Catwoman.
favorite. Yeah.
What? Just like the redness in her eye, even. It's
I know when you look at the small little details, you're just like,
Luke. Man, and even the background. And he's made it so that Luke is the forefront, but the details in the background, even though they kind of recede
they're
back,
still so good.
they're
still
so
so good. That's the craziest
like
thing.
you can totally tell the texture and everything, and there's the little glints of light coming off the eyes. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, and just
The
like the baby.
chrome.
Right, just the baby. Yeah, it's the chrome. It looks so it's
so
chroming.
good. It is very chroming. It is super chroming. Oh, I love it. Oh, I like
the
all the
faces.
texture in that one too. Man, Christian, why you gotta make us all look bad?
So, so when he used to work here, we all, so it was a few people we looked up to, like, we want to be like you when we grew up. And now it's Christian and Ian. And maybe like Haley Coulson's also really good. There was a lot of, not to say that we aren't good.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
Because we're very, very
I
good.
get it. You
They're
just
fine
totally
artists.
fangirl. You
Yeah.
get, what is it, a squish? I think that's like a professional crush on somebody is a squish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's like just a few people that used to work here that we would be like, oh my gosh, like the fine artist detail. The amazing.
Yeah.
So again, like I think I'm a cool artist, but
I think so too, Toya.
well, thank you. But yeah, they're just such amazing, and there's a real dedication to artists that like draw every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. It's kind of like a muscle. It's like working out almost.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't draw every day.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy for that. But you know, that comes to mind a lot when we're here at the studio and people are like, "Ugh, I hate my painting. It's so bad." I'm like, is this your first time painting? How can you possibly expect it to be everything you want it to be? Like, you have any idea how much work it takes to get good at it?
No.
Like, every time you do it is practice. Every time you're putting something in the bank, like, it's always good. Even if it's bad, it's good because you're doing it.
Yeah. It's very true.
Yeah, lots of figure studies. I love it. Which is actually why I picked the artist that I did today.
Ooh.
So we're going to be spotlighting a classic artist, Caravaggio. Are you familiar?
A little bit. I know he's like a baroque artist.
Yeah, he's a dude who existed and he did things. That's absolutely true.
I know he's a Libra man.
Is he really?
Well, no, it said that he was born on September 24th. I'm pretty sure that's Libra.
Like the very beginning of Libra, right? Yeah.
And when I was doing a little bit of digging, he seems very interesting. He's got a lot of tea.
Yeah, he does. And we were probably just going to skim the surface because it goes deep. But yeah, so he was an Italian painter and he really kind of kicked off the whole Baroque era. So he is called the cursed painter. And there is no definitive reason why. It's just kind of a lot of things put together.
Yeah.
And so he had a profound effect on the Baroque style because he would employ bright shafts of light with the darker backgrounds to create that really dramatic effect. But he was known for depicting a lot of violence and death, and he was considered pretty vulgar at the time because that's not what you did.
In fact, I heard that some of the models that he used were like pimps, prostitutes, hustlers, stuff like that, and they would be like Christian-y.
Yeah, he'd have prostitutes posing for like the Madonna, and it caused quite a stir, as you can imagine. But then there was also the other side of that, which we'll get into later. But I just wanted to throw this one up as an example. When the Baroque style really started to get steam, this is what we were coming out of. This is mannerism, which was the prevalent style up until him. And you can see they really play with kind of that atmospheric perspective. Things get blurrier in the background. It's much more fanciful. You have horses floating in the air, dragons, all kinds of things that
there's like a lot to look
parts
at.
from reality, but weren't super realistic.
Okay.
And he turned that all on its head, and he's like, no, I'm going to draw it like it actually is, which he got a lot of flack for, which is so weird to me. Like, why is that so revolutionary?
Yeah. Okay.
But as an example, he would show the dirt under people's fingernails.
Okay.
And that was like not a thing people wanted to see at the time because they wanted art to be like the purest, most beautiful epitome of humanity. And he was like, no, we're not going to play that way. So if you scroll down, we can see some of his earlier work really focused on a lot of gods and goddesses mythology. We've got Medusa, we've got Narcissus, which I love this painting. I love it. It's so good. The light and the dark, the contrast is so stark.
Is this with the whole like narcissism thing?
Yes, that is where the term narcissist comes from. Basically, Narcissus was madly in love with his own reflection. And that kind of gives you the background of why narcissists are narcissists. He also did a lot of young men in his portrayals, but he never once did a nude woman. So there is some theory that his sexuality was not of the norm for the time, but it's hard to really say. He was also himself considered rather violent and temperamental.
Yeah. He shot a guy.
He did a lot of things. He was arrested and charged with multiple infractions. He threw a plate at a waiter because he was insulted that his artichokes were undercooked. And he cut a hole in his ceiling to let a shaft of light in. And his landlady was like, nah, bro, you can't do that.
Sir.
He killed a guy in a duel, which supposedly that guy is a pimp. So maybe he was defending some woman's honor. Do prostitutes have honor in that sense? I don't know. Morality.
Yeah.
Yay. But he fled to Rome from Naples. Or fled from Rome to Naples. There we go. He was in Rome. And later he ended up joining the knighthood of St. John, which got him a papal pardon for his murder.
Yes.
But then he got into another brawl.
He just can't stay out of trouble, this guy.
He can't. And so he eventually escaped again. He just kind of went all over Italy trying to run from the law. And was involved in another confrontation where his face was disfigured, and there started rumors of his death at that point. People were really starting to be like, I don't know if this is all worth it. You're a great artist, but
you come with all this baggage.
all the baggage. But speaking of him being a great artist, I thought this next tidbit was really, really interesting. So here you'll see two still lifes. These are the only two still lifes that he produced. However, he's considered the father of modern still life.
What?
Yeah. Like it was considered trash painting before that. Like this is the thing you do to practice.
Yeah,
and
okay,
like
fair.
nobody's gonna buy it, you know. But
He's
put
like,
so much detail into it. Like people have studied them and they can find out the exact species of fruit that he's using.
wow.
And he also used like decay. He shows the fruit when it's kind of overripe, or maybe it's wormy, or things that aren't necessarily the most beautiful. Kind of shows the underbelly of its existence and gets into that death and decay and morbidity and everything. So I think it's very interesting that based on the two, but you will see it play into a lot of his portraits too.
Okay.
One of which is young, sick Bacchus. So Bacchus is also known as Dionysus, the god of wine and partying and all things fun, debauchery, which kind of makes sense for his lifestyle.
The god of crunk.
Yeah. But this one in particular is believed to be a self-portrait of him when he was recovering from malaria, I believe. And that's why he looks so sickly.
The whole lip like being white and everything.
Yeah, and like just the pallor, he's like really yellowy and just he don't look good.
No.
Which again was like, why would you paint that at the time? People didn't want the reality. They wanted the pretty stuff.
You know, there's always going to be controversy in art, and they had it back in those times, and we're gonna have it today. And it's just so strange how they're like clicking my pearls, like but we have the same thing today. And, but someone always has to push the envelope, you know. So
somebody had to do it first. All these things that we take for granted now, somebody did it first. But then here we have an older Bacchus who's in good health. And this painting is supposedly so detailed, and I couldn't find any good like zoomed in ones, but apparently you can see Caravaggio's reflection and his easel in the wine decanter. And then you can see Bacchus's face reflecting in the glass of wine, which we can't really tell from this image, but supposedly that's what the infos say.
interesting.
Right. So he just went all out for the detail. And again, like you mentioned, he was using the, slugs of society.
Yeah.
And they were modeling for him. So he had a lot of things that weren't really upper crust, above board. Like here we have the card sharps where obviously there's some cheating going on. He's got some cards hiding behind his back. And then the same thing with the one, the fortune teller. Now, I read that you could see her taking his ring off as she's reading his palm. I don't really get that from it.
I don't get that either, but
There's also two versions, which is super weird. He painted the same thing twice, like a year apart.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. One was a practice one.
Which one he liked better?
I don't know. I mean,
I've done that in not that short a time. But
no,
you know how you
like
found-
years later, right?
you
Like,
wanna
let me redo this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There was something in it that he just wanted to explore more, I guess. I think the first one is a little calmer looking. I think
like,
the clothing
this
in the
remakes that.
second one is more detailed, but the expression in the face maybe is better in the first one.
Yeah, I kind of like the first one better.
I don't know. Both of them, they're making eye contact pretty strongly. Maybe he's kind of enamored with her. I'm not sure.
I get a better read from the first one.
Yeah, I feel the background is a little simpler too. So maybe that's part of it. Yeah, it's so interesting, right? That he would do them like so close.
Yeah.
But when he painted pretty much directly on the canvas,
Yeah,
which
that's
was
right.
unheard
Yes,
of.
'cause, like,
he didn't do preliminary
no
sketches
sketches,
or
yeah.
anything. Yeah, it was super crazy. All right.
But I guess people were saying that's why he's so good also, possibly, because he just went, like, that's how dynamic the expressions and
Yeah.
stuff were, because he just did it.
He just did it. Yeah, it's all one take.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe because he was able to put so much into it in like a shorter amount of time instead of drawing it out like
Yeah.
for a longer period of time. So we touched on this earlier, but he basically serviced the Counter-Reformation. So Luther had put his theses up on the thing. All these Catholics were like becoming disillusioned with the church, becoming Protestants, and he kind of became a bridge to pull some back in, which is really weird considering he was getting in so much trouble all the
Yeah.
time.
They just let it slide for a while.
Right.
They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's cool. But as you can see here, like they're dark.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're dark in terms of contrast and subject
Yeah. I'm
matter.
about to say they're both dark in image.
It's
and
dark on dark. Yeah.
Mhm.
And these were considered, super different than everything before, but he was bringing the religion to more of the common people by including them in the process, by the subject matter. This one with Saint Jerome writing, that painting got stolen.
Oh.
It was returned 2 years later. So I think that contributes to the cursed painter situation because people be stealing his work.
Yeah. Interesting.
But he's got all these religious icons. This one is one of the most famous, the Calling of St. Matthew. You can see he's got a whole slew of people. We've got the bright shaft of light, the really dark darks, vibrant colors. Speaking of colors, as we know, with a lot of these classic painters, they had to mix their own paint.
Yes.
And there was a lot of
Lead.
substances in that paint, like lead. So it's possible that he actually passed away due to lead poisoning because he was very temperamental.
Yeah, and people are saying that. By people, I mean the art people.
Yeah, those people. Yes.
That which I don't go around knowing the symptoms of lead poisoning.
Right.
So apparently a symptom is being like
Yeah.
like crazy,
And he
like,
was. He
angry.
was.
Yeah.
But it's also possible that he was a paranoid schizophrenic. Looking back, there's a kind of they're building more and more evidence that could have been the case, but we can't really ever know because he's not here to diagnose him. And you could see a lot of his struggle really reflected in his artwork. It's dark. It's dark and dynamic, and there's like a psychology and a struggle behind it.
Oh yeah.
This one in particular is relatively famous because of the way that the man's arms kind of project towards the viewer.
Yeah.
That's perspective was not happening before that.
Oh, okay.
And
Isn't
then
that crazy? Is that like 3D glasses to people back
right,
there?
right.
They're
It
like, "Whoa."
basically is. It's breaking the fourth wall in a sense. It's pulling the viewer in. And even like the basket of fruit is right on the edge of the table.
Oof.
Like you kind of want to reach out and catch it because you think it's going to fall off. And then the man in the background is actually self-portrait of him.
Oh.
And we've mentioned that before. A lot of artists would put themselves in their paintings just because, you know, that's one less person to pay to stand around for you and model, I guess. So why not? Speaking of self-portraits, that's his head.
Oh,
He is Goliath.
Wow, I never knew that. He is a Libra man. It's crazy because the whole time I was like learning about him and looking at his artwork, I'm like, he's a Libra man. And there's an old artist here that used to work here, and she would be like, Libra men, they're so problematic. They're
We
so
were just talking about that, right? Because I'm a Libra woman.
Oh yeah, but see, you're fine.
I'm fine. It's fine. We're fine.
Yes, but Libra men.
But it's crazy. So, like, why would you make yourself the severed head of all
he's
things?
dark. He wants to be cool.
I guess. Or he's just going through, you know, psychological
that.
torment.
Probably.
But there's other artists that were so like put off by his stuff that he would be the bad guy, the devil being vanquished by the angels. You could tell it's his
wow.
face. Yeah, it's crazy.
Drinking the haterade.
Yeah, right? So people were not a fan as much as some people were like, he's amazing. But, you know, as his unhinged behavior became more prevalent, people were kind of talking mad smack about him. Then he died supposedly of a fever. Could have been lead poisoning. Could have been murder. He had a bunch of enemies. Don't know.
Yeah.
But he was super influential and was considered a pioneer. He influenced Rembrandt and Rubens and tons of other artists. And I just wanted to include this one of Rubens' works just because you can totally see the influence. It's so much softer and happier, right? But it still has
those
that
elements.
drama. Yes. Yeah. Caravaggio, man.
Ooh.
Crazy dude.
Oh, it's nice.
But he had more work stolen. Some people went in the middle of the night and cut the canvas from the frame and stole this from a church.
Okay, are they haters? Or were they like, we love this so much we must steal? Or we hate this so much we must steal?
They loved it so much they must steal, and then they proceeded to display it at all kinds of mafia meetings because apparently it was the mob.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Wait, what's going on here with baby Jesus? This baby Jesus right here?
Yeah, so it's a nativity that was stolen.
It's the same one.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, totally him. You can totally tell it's him.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Speaking of totally telling it's him, I'm going to end us with some news too, because this just happened like on Monday.
What?
Yeah.
Recent news.
So the lost Caravaggio has been discovered. And this painting is Esse Homo, which is Behold the Man. And it was going to auction back in 2021.
Okay.
And the authorities came in all gangbusters and they're like, stop everything. It's like totally out of a movie, right?
Uh-huh.
They're like, and it was originally attributed to a disciple of another artist who was lesser known, Spanish, and it was going to go for about $1,600. And they were like, no, we're pretty sure this is more special than that.
Yeah. Oh,
Stop the
my
auction.
gosh.
And so they did. They researched it, and the findings just came back conclusive that it is one of his paintings.
Wow.
And the Spanish government was like, you can't transport this. Like, it needs to stay here. Put all these regulations on it so they could study it and figure it out. But everybody was like, yeah, that's him.
Wow. Imagine being dead and being so popular still.
Right?
You know, people are fighting over your work still, trying to figure out if it's yours.
Yeah. But it's like those Jackson Pollocks in a locker. Like,
Yeah.
is it really? But also, you know what? It could happen. Art could just be sitting in somebody's attic. I don't know. It's crazy.
That's true.
So
That's
now
true.
we have found the lost Caravaggio.
Wow. Shout out to Caravaggio. Wow. I really like his name. It sounds like a designer bag.
It's so Italian. It's so Italian. But I selected him because he does a lot of portraiture, and Christian
Yes.
also does a lot of portraiture.
Very true.
And he has that kind of realistic look, and the drama in a lot of Christian's work reminded me that like really strong lights and darks.
That's
and
very
so I
true.
thought it was a good tie
That
back.
is so true. That was a really good comparison.
I try.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it. I see exactly what you're talking about.
Cool. I'm glad it's not just me. And I'm sure Christian will really appreciate it, knowing
Yes.
art history as he does. He'll be
Yes.
like, oh yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if the dude was unhinged.
He'll probably like that even more.
Yeah, probably, actually. We'll go with that.
All right. Well, I guess that concludes episode 2. Make
Which
sure
is really
to
32.
We're on 32?
We're on 32.
Okay.
It's the second one of the new podcast.
3 episode 2, but 32 of
Yeah,
season
semantics.
2.
It don't matter. Another episode of Spotlight with Purple Easel is now concluded.
That's right, folks. And you definitely want to go to purpleeasel.com for frames, memberships. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click that little bell ringy dooley dab dingy.
All the things.
Type below the little comments. Let us know about Caravaggio.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that right?
Caravaggio. I know. I
Caravaggio.
want to say Caravaggio
Yeah.
too. Like, I know there's an extra syllable. in there.
Caravaggio. Let us know. And also let us know if you appreciate Christian Nacorda's work. And yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess that's pretty much it.
From all of us here at Purple Easel, thanks for tuning in, and make sure to check out the work of our artists today, and we'll see you back next time.
Ooh.